In the past, games always relied on the information presented on screen during the investigation to provide clues, and players restored the truth through lots of cutscenes. For example, in the Charlotte Harmore scam series, the explanation through audio or text is automatically triggered when the mouse clicks on a highlight. As Carl mentioned, cutscenes help contextualize events while reducing the player's real-time interaction. There are several ways to make an object known, including graphics and sound. Many games have made much effort to make the picture feel realistic. The sound as human use of hearing to identify the source of objects, the state of things, and materials clearly provide an extra visual certainty for verifying objects and events. As Dahlberger stated, the sound of objects from off-screen can force the audience into the state of active listening, searching for the semantic properties of sound, describing their specific properties and perceptual characteristics. Collins also states that audio is used as a cue to anticipate events, as well as understand the parts of the world the player cannot see. In the next few minutes, I will show the weekend real-time interactivity in different games as detective investigating quests, discussing the shortcoming of telling the truth in addition to the visual cutscenes and audibility to narrative experiences. And exploring audibility can also help to verify conjectures and make inferences. The voice of Sherlock Holmes explaining the case after the mouse clicks on the highlight rather than the player analyzing it themselves. Or playing as a sheriff, interrogating the suspect about the case and repeatedly interrogating her to confirm the correctness of the answer. Or mysterious but seeing a witness to hear what they saw rather than the player speculating about what happened. This active narration of the case through the character does not properly consider the player's thought on the case while solving the puzzle. The player is not able to make their own analysis of the state of the purpose at the scene, or actively speculate on what happened, but is simply forced to accept that the plot has progressed to the next scenes from easy-to-get audio dialogues or cutscenes. To answer the unique detective experiences of each player and allowing the player to actively look for the hidden agenda behind the case, rather than the cutscene to break this process of conjecture. Also, to simulate the process of how humans would recognize and speculate about events and how the object sound awakened the player's associations. This video will attempt to start with the audio perspective, assuming that the process of temporarily obscuring the narrative form of restoring the truth of the case and allowing the player to investigate the state of objects and speculate on the modus operandi with limited clues and things will highlight the importance of a player's roles as detective itself. This is also revealed in comments, where players are no longer satisfied with on-screen disclosures, but expect their unique process of speculation. It is not only the visual clues that can assist the player in examining the state of objects, but also the hearing. Here my practical exploration of sound aspect of helping the player investigate and analyze clues is divided into several stages. Inducing active thinking by the player in the case, investigation, and resolving process through weaken the ability to visually access direct information and clues by simulating listening to the character encounters on the phone, and simple crime scene rooms for narrative progression and branching to influence the ending in the same way as visual novel game. However, I have ignored how the player is supposed to imagine what's going on and speculate on the source of sound. This requires the player to guess and identify how key objects make sound, and the player needs to know how to speculate and what goes. This is exactly why I use layout maps to visually show each character's movement and put simple appearance in all rooms. To enable listening to be present clearer during the investigation mission, I looked at how the visual sound used in the game allows the player to receive different information. I realized the player could recognize that it is the object and analyze what act created the sound, because they have memory of the sound of material and what interaction resulted in this sound. There was a vague definition of behavior to the sound. Then I arranged the sounds in a way that recalled the memory of how the object was used in the player's life, according to the unique narrative property of sound and the way it conveys information. Listening to a recording of diegetic sound and a cosmetic sound allows the player to image and be a bit judgmental. The player is allowed to pause a recording and click on the item in the room that the two NPCs might have used in the sound they just made. Players can select the action the NPC might have just taken with that item to uniquely identify the source of sound and verify the modus operandi. In the next step, the player can also drag and drop the sound caused by the action into the gray square to play it to verify it. The simulation recreates the process of people actively using auditory supplements to identify the state of objects in their life. When the gameplay is grabbed onto Cyberpunk 2077's breakdance, can replacing the information obtained from direct scanning and giving the player clues through the cosmetic and diegetic sound. And the audio provides the player listening opportunity to actively investigate and allow them to combine such idea for verification. Place visual cutscenes or auditory dialogue narration in the player's feedback after verification. It can help players recapture the clues and they haven't yet noticed. It gives them reasonableness and certainty in time for confirmation.